This is African Diaries. Shayla Ndikumana with you, and I've got you for the next 35 minutes as we continue conversations with Marici Corneli Jacobs. Now, again, just to reiterate that today's conversation does address sensitive topics, this including gender-based violence, divorce, and children's exposure to family conflict. We approach these issues with care and professionalism, but sometimes this may cause a trigger of some kind. If you are someone or know someone that is affected by these issues, support services are available in your area, and we encourage you to make use of them. We continue conversations with Marici, and we're looking at the realities of how children can be protected during this very sticky business that is divorce. Marici, toward the end of the conversation, you sort of included or contextualized the realities of GBV, and I want us to come to that, to the instance where children have been exposed to GBV based on a parent or a guardian. How do you mitigate that? You said something to the effect of communicating with a child and sort of stopping the process to get more information. What does that look like?
Okay, I wanted to read to you just the lines of Section 10 of our Children's Act, because that makes sense why we can speak to children and why their voices is so powerful and needs to be heard. It says, every child that is of such an age, maturity, and stage of development as to be able to participate in any matter concerning that child has the right to participate in an appropriate way, and views expressed by the child must be given due consideration. So you hear we're asking, what is the age of the child? Is the child mature? Can we speak to that child? And how, in what appropriate way can we speak to that child? Now, when we speak to children in divorce, but also we sometimes are called in to speak to children at school, or sometimes even in court proceedings, a magistrate will ask a voice of the child practitioner to speak to the children, because we are trained to speak to the children. And as we let them draw or we play with them with cards, we hear from them. We can ask them questions, age-appropriate questions, and we hear from them what is their concerns. I have a friend that always says, when children start to talk, they sing like little birds. But what is the reality behind is that they want to talk. They want to tell you what is their fears, what makes them anxious. Now, we see a lot of children that express their fears and experiences when they are in a situation between their parents. Just to give you a few examples, we've been in cases where parents would throw each other with plates or bottles, and the children will get hurt by the glass. Sometimes the parent has had alcohol or other substances in his or her body and fall on the child or by accident hit the child, but the children then starts talking about that. Now, it is for Family Assist and Voice of the Child, it's vital that these trained practitioners ensure that we then refer these cases. We would then immediately make sure that the child is safe and refer to a social worker or protective services if needed. It is also sad always to understand that most of the times when we speak to these children, not just in divorce, but also post-divorce, at school where they sometimes get bullied, it's the people nearest to them. It is their family. It can be their caretakers. We've had children that's been locked up for long periods of time, and children that's even been sedated. So a lot of the times, because they're young and they're innocent and they're helpless, the situations where they're in make them so vulnerable and put such a lot of anxiety in that trauma situations. And then they really start in this child-friendly space with all these tools that we use to start talking to us and telling us what is their fears and their hurt, why they feel so helpless.
And Marici, for outside parties who have had an opportunity to gauge change in behavior in this child, I mean, you've made mention of some extreme cases, being sedated, being locked up for days on end, and I can only imagine that this would change the nature of the child. What are the first steps that one ought to take? Because what you instinctively want to do is try and rescue the child yourself. You want to step in, you want to try and do something, or you want to leave the matter because you're thinking to yourself, that is a family I'm not trying to touch. And so with all of that information in mind, walk us through some of these steps that one can take who is witnessing some level of GBV that is falling upon the child and has no direct access to the child.
Okay, let me start and explain this. Sometimes parents need some education regarding what their children's needs are. So in our process of assisting with a divorce, we have something called co-parenting classes. Now, co-parenting classes is where there's education for both parents because they get a manual, what to do, how to greet, how to assist, how to help their children after divorce. And that's very helpful because sometimes there's a lot of neglect, also a lot of, how would I say, miscommunication, and that leads to situations which you can avoid if everybody actually just talked to each other and communicated. So it helps to have that reunification that I mentioned, which is the end of the voice of the child. So when we speak to the children, we have to get a mandate. We have to get permission from both parents. A lot of the times, Shayla, one parent will come to us and say, can you please talk to my children? They're very upset. And then we would say, Mom, Dad, we need both of your signatures. Both of you have to give us permission to speak to your children. So we can't just speak to one of the children. Now, because this is not forensic, and it's not therapeutic, we need to be very careful that the parents understand the mandate, that we are going to speak to their children to find out if they're doing well. Do they understand this divorce? Do they understand that they will be in a mom's house for a few days and in a dad's house for a few days? Do they understand that they might be close, that they have to travel with? So a better understanding for the children and the parents help. Now, with gender-based violence and also everything around that, when we do hear from the child that we are touching on those situations, we sometimes have to stop and tell the child that there's another person in our team that needs to join us. And that person then assists with an extra open ear to hear, is there abuse or is there any violence that needs to be reported? And then that case needs to be reported, and there's an investigation that starts. And in that investigation, the voice of the child practitioner cannot be called as a witness. This is for the people that will do all the investigation work. So our mandate stops after the whole voice of the child stops. But we do then give feedback to the parents, and we do tell them what has happened in our voice of the child and up to where this whole case was handed over. So when we hand over there's the indefinite evidence, and we can't mediate or assist a child further. then there's further steps that needs to be done. That stops our mandate, if that is open and clear enough for you.
That is clear, Marici. I want us to talk about the integration of technology, and the reason I'm bringing this up, it has been such a buzz conversation across various spectrums, how technology is influencing how we communicate. And one thing that we have seen, a study was actually conducted to say that 1 in 3 users of the internet is a child. And children are learning how to advance in technology, and sometimes are soughting after care, counsel, affection, attention from the digital space. And so with that context in mind, how do you as VOCP keep up, firstly, with that reality where a child feels like, I've already been counseled, I don't need to talk to you, I already got my I suppose I got my set of advice and I feel like I know what to do and how to carry myself forward. And so this is essentially not for me. How do you then mediate that end?
It's such a good question. 3 ways where everything from AI, from cell phones, laptops have helped us is that when we start with the voice of the child, we make a little video and we forward that video on the cell phone to the parents to play to the child so that the child knows what to expect when they come to us in the voice of the child room. Now, it is true, there's such a lot on TikTok that children help each other, they talk, and there's such a lot out there. But we have really found that the warmth of somebody in a child-friendly space, somebody that actually validates them one-on-one, is something that you can't beat. The fact that they can sit there, that they feel safe, that we listen while they're playing, drawing. You must remember they draw, they've got expressive tools that they work with. That's beyond your laptop and your AI or anything else like that. That is a one-on-one. And because we use age appropriate tools and it's all neutral. The space is warm, it's friendly, it's neutral. Children, like I said, want to talk and they want somebody to hear. Now, you've seen all these little bots. They only have a certain way of talking back to you. Where with us, we ask certain questions and we respond to the answers. We sometimes hold space, we sometimes listen, and sometimes it's uncomfortable. And you have to think on your feet when children tells you certain emotions, which is more than 90% they cry, and they hug a teddy bear. So it's real. And I think that's the difference. We're working with a real situation. You can feel it. And there's a lot more going on between us and that child, and they can feel it. There's a energy that they can feel, and there's a kindness, and there's something like help. And I think also because the voice of the child rooms is so friendly, we normally sit with them on the carpet, and there's teddy bears, they can lie down a little bit. We ask their parents to bring them some snacks and drinks and water and cool drink, because sometimes 45 minutes can get long. That they feel in that time that, you know what, I can actually rest. There's a lot of peace. So I can go on with it for long, but I think to summarize, it's real, and they feel that it's real. They feel that they are heard, and they feel the warmth of another person sitting across from them.
Marici, as we draw to an end, I just want to gauge your thought process. And this is sort of a forecasting question. I believe that mediation is a softer approach to separation. And so are we seeing a growing interest? And if so, can you forecast into, I suppose, a 5-10 year landscape when it comes to South Africa and perhaps even across the continent?
Yes. Shayla, I'm so glad you asked that. Now you're getting me all worked up and very excited. So earlier in this year, our judge president has announced in Gauteng a protocol called Rule 41A. It's amplified. It says that you have to mediate before you can litigate. So, Shayla, before you can go to court now with the Rule 43 or any application, you have to first mediate. And myself as a mediator needs to give you a certificate and give an outcome, what happened in the mediation. And in the mediation, there's always the Divorce Act and the Maintenance Act and the Children's Act that we have to address. So after we've done the parenting plan and touched on the child's care and contact, we also help the parents with their pots and pans and division of estate. So you can actually, for less than about 12,000 Rand, with get divorced with an attorney, having a mediator that helped you have a parenting plan and a voice of the child done. So in this package, you now have a lot of closure, and you have somebody that can, like you say, go forward with you and help you with all those hiccups that can happen to you after divorce. So I think we are going to see more and more people that will mediate because it's faster, it's definitely cheaper, and it's child friendly, and it is pro child. It's child focused. I don't think that attorneys and advocates will fade away. I do think that there's such a beautiful multidisciplinary work process between an attorney and a mediator. And we do all the solutions, and they help us with all the court-based administration work. So there is place and space for both of them. And I do also think that if mediators do parenting plans for the children's court, then there's a lot less of the bottleneck that we see sometimes where people and parents complain to the courts about what their partner has done. I think that can be solved via mediation. So yes, going forward, I think we're going to see more mediation. We're going to see much more voice of the child. And I think that the word will spread. People will see that it's quicker, and it's definitely much more financially, much more better on their pockets to mediate first before they just go straight to attorneys and start immediately litigating.
Marici, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking to you this evening. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Shayla. Thank you for having me here. And if I may have a last word, if you want to know more about Voice of the Child, we have a website, www.voiceofthechild.co.za, and contact us, ask us more. We have such a lot of books and a free ebook, which I'll forward to you, Shayla, that can be distributed. There's so much more that you can help your child with. And I hope everybody that's listened here tonight is just excited as I am about Voice of the Child. Thank you.
Thank you. The voice of an accredited level 3 mediator in commercial and family law, Vice President of Mediation Society of South Africa, and co-creator of the pioneering Voice of the Child Practitioner Program, Marici Corneli Jacobs, joining us this evening. It is 44 after 11 p.m. Central African time. If you have just joined us, welcome to it. African Diaries is simmering toward an end, but we'd still love to hear from you. We want to continue these conversations. Find us on WhatsApp, +27 63406 9126.
When the sun goes down, we don't stop the talk. Channel Africa, the best nighttime radio.